This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Sometimes I'm accused of being too optimistic in my evaluations. It comes from over 30 years of trial experience and working with juries just like the one that's listening to Donald Trump's criminal trial. And the takeaway that I can see from the reporting that's in the room is that Donald Trump's in big trouble. That Michael Cohen, who is the lead witness that apparently the prosecution is going to end with, but they have been building to the moment of Michael Cohen's testimony for all the prior 18 witnesses. Every one of them, in one way or the other, commented or even criticized Michael Cohen to condition this jury for when the day came that Michael Cohen would be spending 20 hours, apparently, on the stand and direct and cross-examination. And the jury enjoys Michael Cohen. Let me repeat that. People in the room say that when Michael Cohen parried and counterpunched with Todd Blanche, whose all of his eggs are in this one basket. Todd Blanche, the lawyer for Donald Trump. He has no other way to succeed in this case than to tear apart Michael Cohen, and it's not going well for him. Not when at least 6 of the 9 jurors are reportedly smiling at Michael Cohen and nodding their heads in agreement with Michael Cohen as he's being cross-examined by Todd Blanche. Terrible sign. I've dealt with juries my entire career. I've had at least 30 juries that I have worked with. I can tell you what jury body language is. And when juries walk in and walk out of the courtroom, which they do several times a day for breaks and for the start of the day and for the end of the day, I mean, they're up and down 5 or 6 times a day. Every one of those times they've passed by the defense table and have not made eye contact with Donald Trump. It's a terrible sign. I've been in this business for a long time. I can tell you when juries turn their bodies away and avert their gaze to the person that they're going to rule against, it's common human behavior. They're going to throw the book at Donald Trump, and they don't believe him and they don't like him, and they're acting and they're signaling in their body language. That plus Michael Cohen doing a magnificent job as a witness. I'm sorry if I sound optimistic. Could the jury come back and 1 or 2 of them decide not to convict? Maybe. I just don't see it. I think that what we're watching on display is the Manhattan district attorneys who are at a grandmaster chess level playing against Todd Blanche and his crew, which are barely on a Parcheesi board. That's what we're watching. There's a reason that every witness that went before Michael Cohen, and starting with the opening statement by Matt Colangelo, criticized Michael Cohen in some way or another to condition the jury for the moment when Michael would take the stand for hours on end. By the time he got there, all those bells had been rung, all those balloons had been popped about Michael Cohen's serving time in jail, his lying to Congress, his being accused of not being truthful to a federal judge. All of that has already been played and been played out in front of this jury. By the time Michael took the stand, the jury could tell Michael Cohen's story. They knew it so well. And the reason for that is that you treat the jury with respect and intelligence. You don't patronize them. You don't talk down to them. And you put on an authentic witness, even if one who has a bit of, as we all do, flaws. There's no perfect witness. There's no perfect lawyer. There's no perfect case. And jurors, by the time they're conditioned appropriately by the presentation of the evidence, are ready. That's the reason, right? Michael's been bolstered. His credibility has been bolstered. His truth-telling has been bolstered by the 17 or 18 witnesses that preceded him. So it's too little too late, as far as I can tell, with this jury for Todd Blanche now to pull out the knives and start trying to dissect and give an autopsy to Michael Cohen in front of this jury. As I've said before, juries make decisions early in cases. I don't care how complicated the case is. I've been dealing with complicated cases my entire career. Juries figure it out quickly. This is not that complicated of a case. This is not that complicated of a fact pattern. We're not talking about a patent case or an intellectual property case or some sort of, learning about how drugs work. This is the same thing. It's just one crime committed 34 times. right? 11 checks, 11 payments, 12 entries in the books and records. That's the 34 counts. We're done. And it's very binary for this jury. They either believe the prosecution's case and they convict on all 34 counts, or they don't. I don't think there's any avenue to say, well, this check was definitely for Michael Cohen, and that was definitely illegal, and Donald Trump knew about it. These other checks he didn't know about. The evidence isn't being presented that way. This is a light switch. This is on or off. And I'll tell you who's on is Michael Cohen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. And you can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health. It can also track your cycle and, for women, the onset of menopause, and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts, so you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings. The key to metabolic health is something called metabolic flexibility, and that's where Lumen really shines. It refers to your body's ability to efficiently switch between using different fuel sources like carbs and fats. There are preferred times to use each, and how well you can switch places you on the metabolic flexibility spectrum. And after getting to know you through your breath, Lumen gives you a metabolic flex score that you can track and improve upon. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me and use LegalAF to get $100 off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.ME and use LegalAF at checkout for $100 off. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Michael Cohen is doing a masterful job. It's a combination of the fact that Michael Cohen is very smart. I've met him. I will tell you he's very smart. He's also, nobody knows the story of Michael Cohen, the gospel according to Michael Cohen, better than Michael Cohen. The jury might, as of right now. I'll tell you who doesn't know it, Todd Blanche. And the lawyers the lawyers for Donald Trump. So they're not going to trick him into anything. And they're not going to embarrass Michael. Michael has already, he's already fallen on his sword, paid his debt to society, and has a podcast called Mea Culpa for a reason. He's already done his mea culpa. Please forgive him. Doesn't mean he can never tell the truth about the intimate details of his business and legal relationship with Donald Trump. For the only organization he ever wanted to work for in order to make a lot of money and become famous himself. He's honest about it. The honesty and authenticity of Michael Cohen is resonating with this jury. That's why they're nodding their heads and smiling with him. That's why they grimace when Todd Blanche is up there. And that's why they ignore Donald Trump every time they come into the courtroom or leave the courtroom. And you don't think they notice when Donald Trump is slow to get up for the jury, or slow to sit down, or slow to get up for the judge, and insulting of the judge? And how many times is Todd Blanche going to have an objection sustained by the Manhattan prosecutor's office, in other words, by the judge, sustaining their objections to make him look bad before he stops? This is also what happens, as I said in a prior hot take, this is also what happens when you're rusty. What we're watching is we're watching two aspects of Todd Blanche. He's rusty and he's desperate. And that makes for a terrible performance in a courtroom, because that's what it ends up being. It's a performance, right? I mean, that's why I think I've been successful at it all the years before I became a podcaster. It's a performance. And when you haven't done it in front of a live jury in 7 or 8 years, like Todd Blanche, who hasn't, and you also have your loan, your only source of income, your only client, because you quit your law firm to represent him, behind you with a stick up your you-know-what, it makes for desperation. And it reeks of desperation. And you know who can smell it? The jury. The jury smells desperation. When Todd Blanche acts out and yells for no reason at Michael Cohen and bangs the table out of nowhere, the jury reads that as frustration, desperation. It's a signal that the case isn't going well for the defense. It's like in a basketball game where the player gets pissed off and after losing a game and a ref's call, he takes the ball and he throws it at the head of a fan. It just happened recently in the NBA. Same thing in the courtroom. It's a contact sport and you got to practice. That's why we call the law a practice, a legal practice. And Todd Blanche is rusty. I've been up against trial lawyers who are rusty and they make mistakes because they haven't, I'm in court all the time. I tried 2 cases in the last month. I'm razor sharp. Evidence code, objections, witnesses, my facts, my law, my documents. I'm on it. Todd Blanche isn't. He worked for 13 years at the U.S. Attorney's Office. He was a line prosecutor. He had junior people below him. He must have tried a handful of cases there, but then he went into private practice where he's been for the last 5 or 6 years. He hasn't tried any cases. I think he's argued motions. He's argued appeals. He hasn't tried a case in front of a jury. There weren't any cases to try in front of a jury during most of COVID. So he's rusty and frustrated. And by contrast, Michael is masterful and honest and authentic, has a command of his facts, and the jury likes the way he responds to things. The biggest mistake was made when Todd Blanche got off on the wrong foot on day 1 in the cross-examination. He should not have started. This is like a rookie mistake because he's rusty. This is a rookie mistake because his client wanted him to do this first. Start with Michael Cohen's social media and the MeidasTouch network. I mean, we all love that for our own personal reasons. But from a trial technique or tactic, terrible. Put Michael in the driver's seat to be able to talk and laugh and giggle with the jury about all the things that Michael has said on his podcast, on our network, off of our network, on social media, and on TikTok about Donald Trump. That's how you start? First of all, I'm not even sure I would have done that until the middle. And my first thing I would have done is what he's doing now, but it's too late. I would have done all the times that Michael has been in a courtroom and been a judge to have not told the truth and been convicted of crimes and everything else. That's what you lead with to orient the jury about who this person is, not with like the orange dusted Cheeto, Von Schitzenpants. That just made the jury like Michael. He's likable. I got bad news for Donald Trump. He is likable. Since he served his debt to society and is no longer the big swinging you-know-what for Donald Trump as his consigliere, he's a likable chap. And New Yorkers like that. They like plain-spoken people. They like directness. They don't like smoke or sunshine blown up there you-know-what. And that's what's on display with Michael Cohen. And this is a different Michael Cohen, one that Todd Blanche was not ready for because they thought he was going to be like where he was in the New York Attorney General case, where Michael was sort of a little bit shrunken, a little bit, eyes were darting, got the basics out. And so he did well from that perspective, but rambled on, didn't answer questions and all that. But with a jury, Michael is, I don't know if he's been prepped to within an inch of his life or he's just a natural gifted speaker, which we know he is. Whatever's happening there, preparation by the Manhattan DA and by Michael Cohen's own lawyers. And Michael Cohen's a smart lawyer himself with a story to tell. It is working and it's not working. And Todd Blanche is walking into the propeller of the plane every time he asks Michael Cohen a question. And the jury sees it and smells it, right? And that's where we are in that trial. I'm going to continue to follow from my perspective as a seasoned, successful trial lawyer in New York court system, in the New York courthouse, right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Follow me on Legal AF, the leading podcast at the intersection of law and politics. Join us on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll find out why we call it Legal AF. You can only guess. And then on podcast platforms, wherever you pick up your podcast, look for Legal AF. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.